Hey guys, it's me, Raiden, and today's video we're reacting to his story. I'm gonna use this chair. So yeah, we're gonna be reacting to his story, yes. We react to his acting films, but not his story. This is basically a copycat. It's literally, he posts literally every minute, I think. When
The school bully.
when was this? This was 2 hours ago. This one.
I found a dead.
This was 4 hours ago. So yeah, he posts a lot. Okay, so let's
The
just
school
go
bully
here.
walked around grabbing everyone's money, but when he got to me, I was already holding out a homemade cheeseburger for him. Here you go, King. Enjoy. He grabbed it and examined it with one eye open like he was suspicious, but eventually, he put it in his mouth and swallowed it in 3 bites. I smirked because he had no idea that I'd blended 3 scoops of mass gainer into that patty, and I knew that in a few months, he'd be so fat he couldn't even breathe. He crushed the wrapper on my chest. Same time tomorrow, little man. I smiled. Can't wait. By week 2, he stormed over to me, already looking chubbier. From now on, I want a double burger. You're my personal chef now, nerd. So that night in the kitchen, I added 3 extra slices of
It's gonna get
cheese,
better.
2 extra scoops of mass gainer to the patty mixture, and generously buttered both buns. By month 2, he was so large that he couldn't sit down without breaking the cafeteria bench, and he'd brag with his mouth full while his jeans button popped off. I'm gonna run this school till graduation. I thought nothing could go wrong. Then one Friday, he squinted at the bun mid-bite. Why you being so nice, nerd? What's in this? The table went quiet, so I grabbed it and took a giant bite myself. Just some extra cheese. Why do you want me to stop? Eventually, he ate it anyway, and I knew I had him. And on the day before spring break, he stomped into the cafeteria so heavily the floor shook. I sent him off with 6 burgers and hoped his mom didn't own a salad bowl. On the first day back, the cafeteria door opened, and the once mighty school bully was now rolling in on a mobility scooter, wedged between the armrests.
so
Every
fat.
fork in the room froze, and I had to bite my cheek to keep a straight face. So much for running this school till graduation. He rolled up and stuck out his hand. Chef, give me my burger. Now, I took a slow bite of my own burger and shook my head. Nah, King. He raised his fist, so I leaned in close. What are you gonna do? Eat me? The cafeteria exploded, and even the lunch lady was laughing so hard, tears fell from her eyes.
Wait,
The
he
class
goes
bully
so
slammed
fat.
the scooter into reverse and beeped his way out. I finished my burger in peace. The school bully walked around grabbing everyone's money, but when I found a dead body under a tarp on the
Wait.
Have you ever wanted to
No.
see?
I found a dead body under a tarp on the beach during my nightly fishing trip. But instead of calling the police, I set up my camera and smiled from ear to ear. I was a reporter who had just gotten fired, but this story was going to be my ticket to glory. I circled the tarp with my light rig, framed my shot, and even rehearsed my opening line. Tragedy washed ashore tonight. A crowd of joggers gathered behind me, and one lady was already crying, which was great for atmosphere. I reached for the tarp, but the crying lady screamed, "Don't touch it! That's a crime scene!" So I backed off and played respectful journalist. "So Mrs. Jogger, you must be pretty shaken, right? Give me a statement." But she shook her head. "I'm calling the police." I jolted because if the police arrived and blocked me from filming, my ticket to glory would wash away. So I rushed back to film the reveal of the dead body under the tarp. But at that exact moment, my light rig died. I couldn't film in the dark, so I strapped my phone to the rig as a flashlight and handed my camera to the crying lady and told her, "Keep me in frame no matter what." I could hear the police sirens getting closer in the distance, so I straightened my hair and rushed towards the tarp. I ripped it off, and the dead body underneath it stood up. It was a huge fisherman who'd been napping under it, and he was furious. "Your lights woke me up from my nap." He chased me straight through my own rig, and I screamed for someone to please call the police. My ticket glory hadn't washed away. It just never even existed. The crying lady kept me in frame the whole time. When the cops arrived, she was still filming, and I heard her say, in my grim reporter voice, "Tragedy washed ashore tonight. I found a dead body under a tarp on the beach."
Not dead body.
Have you ever wanted to see your?
Okay.
When I was collecting my son from his new school, I opened the front door for him, but he jumped in the back seat and popped in an AirPod. "Can you drive now?" I gripped the steering wheel because we used to be best friends, but now I was just the guy who drives him around. I opened Spotify and tried playing Fireflies by Owl City, the song he used to love, but he rolled his eyes and started scrolling Instagram brain rot reels. I joked, "Is AI brain rot really better than listening to your old man?" He put in his second AirPod, so I immediately searched best thing to play on a long drive. His story popped up first. I hit play and tensed up, not knowing what my son was going to do next. He slowly pulled an AirPod out. "Yo, I know this guy. I didn't know he was on Spotify." He climbed into the front
That's
seat
you.
and turned it up, taking his second AirPod out. When the story finished, I played a compilation, and my son nodded. "This His Story Spotify podcast is hitting for real for real. Now I can listen to him no matter what I'm doing." When I parked in the driveway, he hit the lock
That's
button.
you.
"Can we do one more?" When I was collecting my son
was
from his new
you.
school, I opened the
How does he
I was at my high school prom when I let out a fart so loud I knew I had to go, so I rushed into the nearest porta potty. But the second I latched the door, it started violently rocking back and forth, and my stomach dropped. I heard a laugh. "I'm a flip it. Say I won't." I realized it was Derek, who'd bullied me since freshman year. "Derek, don't. I'm in my suit." But he heaved it over anyway, and I slammed into the door as the tank emptied all over me. I crawled out dripping in filth while he cackled with his friends. "Ow! He smell like caca, farts, and ah!" I walked away without a word like I always did, and I had no clue that tonight that would finally change. I was heading for the exit, hands on my face crying, when my teacher grabbed my shoulder. "I've watched him bully you for 4 years. I should have stepped in long ago, but I won't let you take it tonight." My throat tightened, because no one's ever stood up for me. Then Derek's voice cut across the lot. "If you're not a pussycat to come back, I'll flip it again, loser." The whole crowd laughed, and for the first time, the humiliation turned into something I've never felt before. I looked the teacher dead in the eye.
Imagine being able to
Every time the birthday kid started opening presents, I locked myself in the bathroom and waited for the cheering to stop. My mom couldn't afford gifts, but still sent me to every birthday in 3rd grade because the pizza was the only time I got dinner. I would eat embarrassed and never wanted anyone to know. But the day before my best friend Kai's birthday, his mom knocked on our door and asked if I wanted to sleep over. I said yes, because a sleepover meant dinner. But as soon I stepped out, Kai peered from around the corner. "Aren't you bringing your present for me?" I felt my legs buckle, but his mom immediately cut in. "I'm sure he'll come back for it, right?" I nodded, my stomach twisting in fear. During dinner, Kai punched my shoulder. "I can't wait to see what you got me, dude." And I laughed nervously while thinking if I should just go home before the party. I couldn't let Kai find out, but then his mom waved me into her bedroom. My face went hot because I thought she'd question me about presents, but instead she spread toys across the bed. "These are the presents I'm giving Kai tomorrow. Pick one and put your name on it so it can be from you." My chest froze. I realized she knew I was poor, and my hands started shaking, but she just took my shoulders and smiled. "Don't be shy, honey. Pick a toy." I nervously reached for the tiny fidget spinner, but then she slid me the giant monster truck instead. We wrapped it on her floor and wrote my name while Kai showered, and I nearly cried the whole time. The next day, I set a present down for the first time. Kai ripped the paper off and screamed, "How did you know? You're the best." I laughed, and his mom glanced at me and smiled. When the next present came out, I stayed in the room. Every time the birthday kid started opening presents, I locked myself in the I was walking past the bridal suite 3 hours before my
mom
wedding
tried to
when I heard
buy
my
my-
mom's voice through the door. "Just take the money and tell him you got cold
Wait,
feet."
hold up, I
I
was
stopped
reading
and
the
pressed my
title.
ear against
What
the
do you
door.
mean?
My
His
bride.
mom
I was
tried to
walking
buy-
past the bridal suite 3 hours before my wedding when I heard my mom's voice through the door. "Just take the money and tell him you got cold feet." I stopped and pressed my ear against the door. My bride's voice came back firm. "Absolutely not. I love him, and I am not going anywhere." A bang against the wall. "You do not belong in this family. Take the check, or I will ruin this wedding myself." I heard footsteps and ducked into the supply closet. My mom walked out with the check still in her hand. I pulled out my phone and texted my bride. I was outside and I heard everything. 3 seconds later, she texted back, "We are getting married no matter what." I leaned against the wall and took a breath.
Oh,
I didn't
no.
know how far my mom was willing to go. My sister grabbed my arm 10 minutes later. The flowers never came. I called the florist and put it on speaker. "Your mother canceled the order yesterday, sir." I drove to the grocery store in my suit and grabbed every bucket of flowers I could carry, but I was still 3 short for the tables when I got back and saw the makeup artist at the side door holding an envelope. "Someone called yesterday and canceled. I came to return your deposit." I begged her to stay and told her the wedding was still on, but she just shook her head and wouldn't look at me. "I've already booked another job for today. I'm so sorry." I stood in the parking lot watching her drive off, flowers
Mom.
wilting in my back seat, and that's when my bride called. I could hear she'd been crying. She came back, 100,000 this time, and she called my boss, told him I was unstable, and got me fired an hour ago. This wasn't about the wedding anymore. My mom was going after the rest of her life. "Please tell me you recorded it. Every word. Do not delete a single second of it." But I knew my mom. She wasn't done. My mom stood up at the reception with her glass raised. "I have watched many girls come and go from my son's life." I stood up and cut her off.
That's
What she
Elmo.
means is she paid many of them to leave. The room went silent as I held up my phone and pressed play on the recording. Her voice filled the room, the $100,000 offer, the admission about the firing, and then the part I had not heard. "Take the money and get rid of the baby." My bride stood up, put a hand on her stomach, and looked right at my mom. "We're having twins." I crossed the room, took my bride's hand, and never looked back at the woman who tried to buy her out of my life. I was walking past
Oh
the bridal
my gosh.
I slipped on my mom's diamond wedding ring while she was in the shower.
Imagine.
But when I threw my hands up to spin, the ring flew off my finger and rolled deep under the fridge. My heart dropped, and my best friend Rex's ears shot up like he knew I'd messed up. I dropped down and looked, but it was way too far back to reach. Mom's shower was still running down the hall, and I had to get that ring back or else she'd kill me. So I grabbed a broom and jammed it under the fridge, but the ring only skidded farther back into the dark. My hands were shaking now, and then I heard the shower shut off down the hall. She's getting out, and I had seconds before she caught me, so I did the only thing I could think of and pushed Rex toward the gap. Get it, boy, get the ring. But I saw the food scraps under there, so I begged him, don't eat the food, just get the ring. He wriggled under, and I saw him snatch the ring in his teeth, my body finally relaxing. But in one gulp, he swallowed the ring whole with the food scraps. My hands flew over my head. The ring was inside my dog now, and there was no getting it out. My mom stepped out of the bathroom as I dropped to my knees, shaking him, begging him to spit it up, but he just licked my face. Then she walked over. Have you seen my wedding ring? No, I haven't seen it, I lied, my voice cracking. Mom crossed her arms, staring right through me. I know you're lying. Did you take my ring? Just then, the front door opened, and Dad walked in, hearing what my mom said. Your ring? You lost your $20,000 wedding ring? My body started shaking, but right then Rex gagged, his whole body heaving, and the ring shot out of his mouth in a puddle of slobber. I couldn't let him take the blame, so I yelled, "It was me!" I dropped it and told him to get it. He ate it by accident, but Mom shook her head
well, I'm
and
not
put her hands
speaking.
on my
I have
shoulder.
to speak
Sweetie,
more.
you don't have to cover for the
my
dog.
gosh.
We know how much you love him, but we're going to have to give him away to the shelter for doing this. They carried Rex out the door as I protested, the ring safe in Mom's hand. They thought I was protecting him, but I was just telling the truth. I slipped on my mom's diamond wedding ring while she was in the shower, but when I was working as a waiter at Casa Bonita, refilling water at a table right under the fake cliffside where our divers jump into the pool below, when a dad at a nearby table stood up and waved one down. Hold on, it's my son's birthday, and he deserves more than that, these lame dives. I rolled my eyes. Every person there gets the same show. Divers flipping off the cliff into the pool below while they enjoy their sopapillas. But that wasn't good enough for this guy. He wanted a special show built just for his son, Stanley. My manager walked over and smiled politely. Sir, the show runs on a set schedule for everyone's safety. The dad waved him off. Do you know what I paid for this party? Change the schedule or else. I knew right then this wasn't going to end well for him. When the next dive came, he stood up again. That's it? A basic flip? My son needs at least double
Oh my gosh.
flip. A diver on
Double
the
flip?
platform paused mid-climb to glare at him, then did the most basic flip possible off the cliff. His face went red. I want him diving through a flaming hoop. Set one up right now. My manager smiled tightly, and I had to hide my laugh. We don't have flaming hoops, sir. Then get one. By the third dive, he was standing on his chair, phone out, filming. Do it again, but yell happy birthday to my son this time. One diver actually did it.
Flaming
Deadpan,
hoop?
monotone. Happy birthday,
Wait.
Stanley. Then he hit the water with a splash.
Oh,
The
imagine
whole
he
restaurant
hits the
laughed, but
fire.
he didn't
He's gonna,
notice.
like,
He just wanted
die.
more. I want him doing a
Pass
double
away.
backflip off the highest platform on the cliff. Right
What?
now, my manager's jaw tightened. Sir, that platform's for trained staff only. The father stomped his foot. I don't care. I'm not paying for the kiddie dive, so get someone up there. The head diver climbed up herself, waved at him with a huge smile, and called down loud enough for my whole section to hear. This one's for the dad who thinks he's a stunt coordinator. She launched into a full twisting backflip, landed clean, then swam straight to the edge and pointed right at him. Actually, sir, since you're the real expert here, why don't you show us how it's done? The whole restaurant lost it, chanting for him to dive as he turned red with embarrassment. Then two staff members in Black Bart cowboy costumes appeared and marched him toward the fake jail cell tucked in Black Bart's cave, cameras flashing the entire wall. I watched him sit behind the little wooden bars for the rest of the show, while Stanley cheered louder than anyone in the building. I still think it was the best tip I never got. I was working as a waiter at
Wait.
Casa Bonita, refilling water at a
If your
Wait,
kid look
dude, that's
I was standing in court because my neighbor was suing me for $15,000 over my Wi-Fi network name. The judge read the complaint aloud, her eyebrows climbing with every word. The defendant purposely named their wireless network FBI Surveillance Van Number 4 to cause the plaintiff, Mr. Snatcher, in some...
Wait, I'm subscribing. Anyways, back to the video. Wait. A compilation? 7 hours long? Okay.
I was grabbing a lollipop from the bowl on the bank counter when a man burst through the doors with a gun.
What?
Everybody down! He's...
Bro. Wait, guys, let me... What was that? Wait. Why did the lights just... Okay, dude. Wait. Compilation?
This may be the last ad you ever see. Because with the free AdBlock extension from Capital One Shopping, you can say goodbye to ads on sites like YouTube. No more interruptions.
I opened my son's Instagram live and saw he was standing on the edge of a building. Welcome to Fact or Cap. What the hell? What was Justin doing? I could see the likes popping up on the corner of the screen. Guys, I had no idea, but today Mr. Foley told us that Red Bull gives you wings. Today we're gonna test if that's cap or not. No, please tell me this is a joke. But I could see he was on the roof of his school. I instantly swiped off the live and dialed his teacher. Hello? My son is on the roof of the school. I think he's about to jump, but she just laughed and said, "Sir, those doors are locked. There's no way he's up there." I swiped back onto the live. Now there were more of his classmates up there, and they all started yelling, "Chug, chug, chug." I swiped back to the phone call and yelled, "Oh my God, you have to hurry. He's about to jump." I was already jumping in my car, sweating through my clothes, but I heard her say, "Wait, no. The door is locked. I can't get up there." Locked? How did they lock it? I swiped back to the live and watched as his classmates were pushing things in front of the door to the roof, all standing in front of it so nobody could stop him. He was getting ready to jump again. I couldn't let my son die because of Mr. Foley's dumb lie, so I broke every traffic law just to get there. I was speeding with one hand, watching the live with the other. Okay guys, Mr. Foley better have been telling the truth. Kids were typing, "Do it," and "Fly Justin," and I was going 90 down that residential road. I screeched into the parking lot and saw him up there. I was almost out of time, and just as I burst through the school doors, I heard them yelling, "Justin, don't jump," but they were already counting down. I ran up the stairs and saw multiple teachers pounding on the door to get onto the roof, one being Mr. Foley, and as bad as I wanted to punch him in the face, I had to get to Justin first. I could hear them outside. 3, 2, 1, no! And just as we all busted through that door, we saw Justin running toward the edge of the building. I screamed, "Justin, no!" But he jumped. He flew off the edge of the building, thinking he was about to fly. Everyone screamed, cried, and he hit the ground. I looked over at Mr. Foley. "You told him to jump off the roof?" He tried to make up an excuse. How was I supposed to know he'd believe me? I was just joking. And in that moment, I couldn't hold back. As they loaded him into the ambulance, I shoved Mr. Foley off the roof too. My little brother was constantly coming home from school with new cuts and bruises, but when I asked him about it, he told me he was playing football at school. His school was next to mine, so at lunch, I went over to see what was really going on. He wasn't anywhere near any of the kids playing football, but when I asked a kid where he was, he pointed to a corner. I walked over and saw him sitting, reading a book, and just as I was about to leave, I heard a familiar voice. I turned around and saw my ex-girlfriend and her best friend go up to him. They started making fun of him, throwing things at him, even grabbing his book out of his hands, ripping it in half. Then she even went as far as to kick him a few times. I immediately stormed over and told her to get out of there, but I could tell this wasn't the end. My mom wanted to tell the principal and get her expelled, but I had a better idea. The next day, I took him to the ice cream shop where she worked and told him to go get some. He's deathly allergic to gluten and dairy, so after he asked for it to be specially made, I knew she would try something. I stood in a corner where I could see her making it and managed to get a video on my phone of her mixing in milk and wafers to the bottom. This would have killed him. I showed the manager, and instead of getting expelled, she now has a criminal record. After 8 years on death row, I was ready to die. They said I
why
killed
does he
Rebecca.
look like
My
this?
fingerprints were on the knife.
Why
My blood
does
was
he
at the
look
scene.
like-
I told them I didn't do it, but nobody believed me. I spent years fighting, filed every...
Wait, is this an old one? No. We don't. I want the guy that looks like this. The guy with the orange hair. Oh wait, this is. Okay, so this is.
Shape your scene.
Oh my
Generate
gosh!
funny videos.
No.
Walked into the hallway and saw a girl in the wheelchair crawling on the ground. 3 older bullies had tipped her out and were filming her kicking her books away. She was crying, trying to reach her chair while they laughed. I ran over to try help, but they threw me into the lockers instantly. These guys claimed to have
Daddy
gang ties,
punched
and
me.
rumors said they brought guns to school, and I knew I couldn't take all 3 of
Hey, I didn't
them,
know
so
what
I
to
ran
say.
to find someone, and the first person I bumped into was Mr. Potter. Now, Mr. Potter was the nerdiest teacher. He was the president of chess club, said okie dokie, and called everybody scholar, but he also had faded tattoos covering his forearms that seemed the total opposite of nerdy. I told him what was happening, and he put down his teacup, walking towards the hallway instantly. I worried the bullies would do something to him, so I followed him. But even though I only got there a minute after him, the hallway was now empty. I couldn't find them anywhere, and when I had Mr. Potter for class later, neither he nor the girls showed up. I got a bad feeling and went looking for them when suddenly my phone started blowing up. One of the bullies posted the video of the girl being tipped from her wheelchair onto the year group Instagram page. I was watching it in horror when I heard their voices. I looked up and saw the 3 bullies walking with their fists clenched. "We know you told Potter. You know what happens to snitches where we're from." I was terrified and ran out of school immediately. I sprinted down the street, and that's when a black car pulled up near me. A guy with a neck tattoo rolled his windows down. "You in Mr. Potter's class?" I was confused, but nodded, trying to seem calm. He held up photos of the 3 bullies. "Which one's the worst?" I pointed to the biggest one, and he nodded, then pulled away. I was taken aback and wondered what that was about. But the next day, I walked into class, and nobody was there. Not the girl, not Mr. Potter, but this time the 3 bullies weren't either. I sat down, and a few minutes later, the door opened. The 3 bullies. I started sweating. They locked eyes with me and started walking over. I braced myself for whatever was coming, but then one of them handed me a note, a handwritten apology. I looked up, and all 3 of them were shaking. They mumbled sorry and sat down. A minute later, Mr. Potter walked in, cheery as ever. "Okie dokie, scholars, let's get started." The bullies froze up even more. Then another minute later, there was another knock. "Gentlemen," Mr. Potter turned to the bullies. "I think someone wants to come in." All 3 stood up and immediately walked to the front, their knees shaking, and held the door open. The wheelchair girl rolled in. I had no idea what was going on, but at lunch my phone started dinging again. The school's Instagram page, and this time the video was the 3 bullies apologizing. I looked up and saw one of them alone, so I walked over and asked what happened. He seemed scared to even talk. "They put us in a trunk and drove for over an hour," he said. "Tied us up in a warehouse and said they'd kill us if we didn't drop the gangster act." He paused. "You know who they called for permission to let us go?" I shook my head. "They called him OG." He pointed to Potter's classroom. "Goddamn chess club." The school bully slammed his hands down on the table in front of me, and I knew my day was about to get worse. I was just sitting down at my usual table in the cafeteria when I heard the dreaded sound of Leo's voice. His dad was the town mayor, and he could get away with murder. The teachers all turned a blind eye when they saw him hurting someone. He wasn't afraid to get physical with people, but lately, he has been targeting me. I jumped when he slammed his fist down on the table in front of me. Then he grabbed my tray of food and dumped the hot chili all over my head, smearing it into my hair. Instead of running off, I stood and faced him, anger filling me as I felt the chili seep through my clothing. It was disgusting and I was pissed. For once, he looked a little nervous as silence fell over the students in the cafeteria. "Aren't you going to run away?" he asked. I laughed coldly. "Someone needs to stand up to you," I snarled. Leo's eyes widened in surprise, and he quickly stepped away from me. He turned and quickly walked out of the cafeteria. A moment later, he brought a teacher into the room, just as a murmur began rising. A hush fell over the crowd again. What is going on?" the teacher demanded. Leo had fake tears in his eyes as he pointed.
Dude, I don't. Why is this so? Why? Why is he like not the orange hair? Why? Okay. Okay, let's do this.
For my 12th birthday and swore I'd give it the best life possible. But the next day I came home and saw my brother swinging his baseball bat at my parrot's cage. My parrot was screeching and cowering in fear while my brother laughed. It sounds so much cooler when it's
This
scared.
is gonna be so sad.
I had just eaten a $40 steak when I waved my hand in the air and called out, "Waiter, waiter, this steak is cold. I want a refund." The waiter walked over and shook his head. "Are you insane? You already ate the steak." I told him I was perfectly sane, and the steak was obviously cold. My date sat across from me with her mouth wide open, so I winked.
Being the family tech support, explain.
I was playing cards with other gang members when my buddy Cole pulled his aircraft right next. Me and my son were at a fun fair and saw one.
Not again.
I had always wanted to be on the Jumbotron at a pro soccer game, but now it was happening for all the wrong reasons. The competing team's 2 biggest stars and a referee were all looking down on me with disgust. The rules clearly state no flash photography.
Is this
and you
real?
snapped
Are
a
these
picture
actually
at the
like real
I was on a
stories?
field trip with my class at the local hospital when I was pulled into another room and handed 2 syringes with different colored chemicals in each. "You,
What?
doctor, we need help in here. You have to stabilize this patient." Even though I was only in high school, I was already 6'4" with a scraggly beard, which is why I guess I had been confused for another doctor. I froze in shock for only a second. "She's flatlining. Figure out what's wrong with her and give her the correct antidote." I looked down at the woman on the stretcher. She wasn't breathing, and the beeps coming from her heart monitor were growing weaker by the second. Just then, a man and 2 children entered the room with us. "Mommy, oh no, please, you have to save my wife." A nurse looked at me and said, "We can't figure out what's wrong with her. One of those needles will bring her back, but the wrong one will stop her heart for good. We need your expertise to pick the right one." The panic I felt was white hot, but I had to act. I raised the needle in my left hand and prepared to inject it. I brought my hand down, but just before I broke the skin, a gut feeling told me to switch. So instead, I brought the other needle down almost before I could think. The beeps on the heart monitor started getting stronger and fast. The woman shot up from the table and took a giant deep breath. "I'm alive," she said, coughing up blood. "Mommy, you're okay." Her family ran to her side and they all
Wait, what
embraced.
happened
The
though?
husband put his hand on my shoulder and said, "We can never thank you enough." The medical staff behind me started celebrating. "Doctor, you did it." "I'm no doctor," I said, putting on sunglasses. "Just a kid with the greatest instincts on planet Earth." I was on a field trip with my class at the
Greatest
local...
instinct.
I was
is that Gugu Gaga penguin?
I was watching a zoo snake show when the cobra lunged and bit the volunteer's hand, and his smile dropped into a scream. I immediately stood up because I'm a zoologist and knew he had 30 minutes before the venom stopped his heart. A woman recording screamed, "That's my husband! Someone help him!" with her 2 kids crying at her legs. The zoo handler panicked and started tying a belt above the bite to save him, but I shoved through the crowd. "That belt will kill him faster! Call an ambulance and don't move him!" Every face turned to me like I was insane, but I knew if they didn't listen to me soon, they'd kill him. If you move him, the venom reaches his heart faster. He needs to stay still until the medics arrive. But the handler shoved me back, flashing his badge. "Shut up! I'm trained for this. Step away now!" The crowd sided with him, and I watched him yank the belt tighter as the husband's fingers turned purple, every second pumping venom straight to his heart. So I dropped to my knees beside the volunteer and begged him to lie still, but he was staring at his kids. "I need to get to my kids." He started crawling toward them, but if he kept moving, he would die in front of them. So I held him down, and the wife screamed, "He's trying to kill my husband." Then the handler ripped me off of him, and the husband dragged himself across the concrete toward his kids. But halfway there, his arms buckled and his eyelids started drooping shut, and my blood ran cold because I knew he only had seconds left. So I swung and knocked the handler flat, then threw myself over the husband and pinned him down so he'd stop moving. The wife clawed at my back, screaming for someone to pull me off, but I kept my weight on him. His breaths were getting shorter under me, and I didn't know if he'd make it. Then tires screeched, and 2 paramedics shoved through the crowd. One took one look at me and yelled, "Yes, keep him still." The whole crowd went quiet as they looked at the handler with disgust. The paramedics pushed the anti-venom in, but he shook his head. "He's going to lose the arm because of the belt, but you saved his life by not letting them move him." The wife sank down beside me. "I'm so sorry," as his kids ran into his arms. He almost died trying to reach them. Now he finally could. I was watching a zoo snake show when the cobra lunged. I peeled a lottery ticket off the pavement under my tire and read, "Win $47. I couldn't believe my luck because I had only pulled into that gas station to steal napkins from the hot dog counter because I was too broke to afford toilet paper. Score! My celebration startled the man at the air pump so badly he dropped the hose. His eyes moved from the ticket to me. "Is that yours?" I folded it once. "It is now." I started walking inside, already picturing a 12-pack of 2-ply, but the man sprinted past me, shoved the door open and yelled, "He stole my winning ticket." The cashier looked up as I came in behind him with the ticket still in my hand. "It was under my tire." The man pointed at the black mark across one corner. "Because you parked on it." I slapped the ticket on the counter and kept my palm over it. The cashier looked from him to me. "You're fighting over parking lot trash." I looked at the toilet paper shelf behind him. "It's not trash. It's my ticket to 2-ply comfort." Then I pushed it toward the scanner. The man grabbed the far edge before it reached the machine, and I pulled back because trash or not, that ticket was still the only thing between me and another handful of stolen napkins.
Oh
The
my gosh.
cashier lifted both hands. "If you rip the barcode, I can't scan it." The man yanked harder, and for one stupid second, I yanked back harder too. The ticket split down the middle, sending us both stumbling backward. He crashed into the candy rack while I knocked over a beef jerky display, and the cashier snatched my half from the floor before I could even stand up. Other piece. The man slid his half onto the counter, and we both leaned in while the cashier lined up the torn barcode under the scanner. The machine beeped once. "Not a winner" flashed on the screen. The cashier turned the ticket around and tapped the tiny words under the prize box. "It says win up to $47. Did either of you read that part?" The man backed away without looking at me. I looked from the toilet paper shelf to the hot dog counter, grabbed the biggest fistful of napkins I could carry, and ran. I peeled a lottery ticket off the pavement under my tongue.
Who secretly hates you in the shadows?
My son wanted to be the next Ronaldo, but he watched his first and last World Cup from a hospital bed. The first thing I ever put in his hands was a football, the day he was born. By 3, he slept with it. By 5, he wore the number 7 and hit the CO every time he scored on me, leaping into the air, arms out, shouting it so loud the whole street could hear. He told the woman at the supermarket, the man who fixed our car, anyone who would listen, that he'd play in a World Cup one day. But the summer he turned 8, the headaches started, the scans came back, and a doctor told us it was cancer, that he'd never run on a pitch again, and that we didn't have long. In the ward, the football that used to live at his feet just sat at the end of the bed. He stopped asking to go outside. He'd loop old matches on my phone, mouthing the commentary he already knew by heart. When the foundation told him he could have anything in the world, I was already doing the math, ready to sell the car and fly us anywhere to get him onto a real pitch with the players he loved. He thought about it for a long time, then tugged my sleeve. I just want to watch the final with you. I had to turn toward the window so he wouldn't see my face, because the final was 5 weeks out and the doctors hadn't promised me 5 weeks. He got smaller after that, sleeping through whole afternoons, and by the week of the final, the nurses had stopped meeting my eyes in the hallway. I counted the days out loud to him anyway, not knowing if he'd be awake to hear the whistle. He made it. We propped him up on the pillows, his jersey on, the football tucked under his arm. His team went a goal down in the second half. He grabbed my hand. They'll score, Dad. Watch. Late in the game, they scored, and the whole stadium on the screen came apart. But he was too weak to leap up and shout it the way he had 1,000 times. He just pulled the football into his chest, the same one I gave him. My buddy Cole pulled his aircraft right next to mine, grinned at me through the glass, and pointed at the... I peeled a lottery ticket off the pavement under my tire and read, "Win $47. I couldn't believe my luck because I had...
Who secretly hate
My teacher told me to stay back after class to discuss my behavior issues, so I immediately slapped her across the face. She fell to the floor, and I covered my mouth in horror. "I'm sorry, miss. I can't control it." You see, I'd had surgery as a kid. Doctors separated the right and left sides of my brain to treat my epilepsy, but it left me with a rogue left arm, meaning I physically couldn't control it, and it did things on its own without me wanting to. My teacher yelled, "To the principal's office, now," and dragged me while I screamed it was my rogue limb. The principal sighed, "I already called your mom. You can't keep being violent because of this made-up condition," but I punched him in the face before he finished his sentence. He clutched his nose, and I instantly grabbed the school trophy off his desk and hurled it at his head. He fell and screamed, "I'm calling the cops," while I cried and begged them to believe I couldn't control it. But then my left arm reached for the principal's prized paintball gun. He'd hung it behind a glass as the last thing his father left him, but I simply punched through. The glass shattered, and I grabbed the paintball gun and aimed it at him. My teacher lunged to snatch it from me, but I shoved her to the ground and started going Rambo on my principal with his own father's paintball gun. I wrestled the gun away with my right arm, but that's when my teacher tackled me. Tears ran from my face as I begged them to believe me, but they yelled, "You're going to prison." An officer walked in and saw my principal covered in paintball and bruises on his face, but I felt my left arm instantly curl into a fist. The principal screamed, "This boy is violent. He destroyed property and assaulted me." The cop went to ask me if this was true, and in response, my left arm punched him square in the jaw. He dropped, and I screamed, "No," because I knew assaulting an officer meant my was cooked. The cop got up and immediately pulled out handcuffs. I started crying as he put my hands behind my back, but that's when the door opened. My mom was panting with a stack of medical papers. "Whatever's happening is not his fault. I have the proof right here." She shoved them at the officer, and I backed away from everyone so I couldn't hit them. I watched the officer's face twist as he read. Then he shook his head in disbelief. "This is insane, but this actually stops me from being able to arrest you. Whatever your left arm does is legally not your doing." He tucked his handcuffs away and walked out without another word. The principal and teacher went red, and that's when my left arm rose up and gave them the middle finger. My teacher told me,
"If you play Steal a Brain Rot and you..."
No, I
my
don't
best
want
friend
this ad.
Felix walked. A random service dog ran across the park and pressed his paw into my leg. I immediately shot up because a service dog that was alone meant its owner was in trouble. "Let's go, boy." He tore back across the grass and stopped at a woman in a wheelchair with a man standing behind her. She looked completely
Wait, this is
fine,
the
but the
same
dog
man.
leaned into her chair
Like
and stared at
the
me,
guy
so
who-
I crouched down to get a
That's
better
the
look.
same
"Are you
guy
doing
who, like,
okay?"
wanted
She
the
nodded her
other-
head violently, but the dog let out a low whine and wedged himself
What?
between the man and her chair. The man rested a hand on her shoulder and smiled. "We're good, man. She doesn't talk much," but her knuckles were white on the armrests, and tears were sliding down her face while she kept nodding. I gave the dog a pat and backed off. "Oh, okay, my bad, folks." But as soon as I turned around, I called 911 and spoke quietly. I train service dogs, and I know a real alert when I see one. A woman's being held against her will at the Center Park. They told me to stay on the phone, and when I turned around, the man looked at my phone and stopped smiling. He spun her chair and shoved her toward the van, and I was still reading his plate when he slammed the doors and peeled out with the dog chasing the bumper. I wolf whistled and the dog whipped around, and we sprinted for my car together. The van blew the red light and I stayed on it, the dog's nose smearing the glass. I talked to the police again. White van, north on 5th. I'm behind him. 2 cruisers screamed past us at the bridge and boxed him in. Officers dragged him out while another lifted her down, and he twisted around in the cuffs. This is a misunderstanding. She's my wife. An officer stood him against the van and asked one question. What's her name? His mouth opened and closed, and nothing came out. He didn't know it. Another officer read her wheelchair tag into his radio. Her name was Grace. She was nonverbal, and she'd been missing from the nursing home since morning. I heard the officers speaking to each other. He's not her husband. He was a stranger who picked her because she couldn't call for help. I gasped and looked at the dog who'd saved her life. You're a hero. The dog tore loose, bolted past every officer, and jumped up with his paw against her leg, tail whipping. Grace wrapped both arms around him and buried her. I was rattling my cup for money, feeling everybody judge me as they walked by, when a man in a suit pressed $50 into my hand. I was like you once and someone helped me. This is my last 50, but you need it more than I do. I started crying because this was enough money for days of food, but when I looked up to thank him, he was looking side to side, squinting at the nearby bushes and parks. His face got redder, and he suddenly bent back down. Wait, you're not a YouTuber? I shook my head no, and he instantly snatched his $50 back. Then why did I even give you any money? I thought someone would pop out with a camera and give me 10 grand for helping your filthy You tricked me. You should feel ashamed of conning people like this. He stormed away, muttering to himself. I sat there stunned because he only gave me money hoping this was a public stunt. Then I turned to my friend in the bushes with his camera and 10 grand in his pocket. I was rattling my cup for money, feeling everybody judge me as they walked by, when a man
10 grand in Bro's pocket?
My brother and I were bragging about the girls we met at the festival when he asked, "What was the name of your girl?" I smiled. "Ava. What about you?" He frowned. "Mine was also called Ava." I laughed, thinking it was a coincidence, until Ava started walking over, and we both waved at the exact same time. 18 years of sharing everything, but neither of us was ready to share this. I jumped in front of him, getting ready to mog. "Hey Ava," I pointed at her food. "That corn dog really sticks with me." I nudged her elbow, and when she laughed at my dumb dad joke, I swore I was winning. But my brother grabbed her hand and dragged her to the nearest stand. After just a minute, he won her a stuffed frog. I ran over, and Ava propped her chin in her hand. "So which one of you is the fun brother?" We both said me at the exact same second, and it felt like a knife fight. She hugged us goodbye and whispered something into his ear. 10 minutes later, both our phones buzzed at the exact same second. Mine said, "You're the cute one. Meet me at Rosie's Diner tomorrow at 7. I raised my fist in the air to celebrate until I saw my brother grinning at his phone too. I grabbed it and my eyes widened. "Dude, she sent both of us the same text, word for word." He smirked. "May the best man win." The next night we walked into Rosie's Diner and slid into her booth shoulder to shoulder. I put my hands on the table.
Wait, is she
"Ava,
gonna
you need to
marry
make a decision." Her eyes darted from
both?
him to me and back, then gave up. "Relax," she said. "I wanted to see which one of you wanted it more. You should have heard yourselves." She flailed her arms around to make fun of us. Me, like puppies." She slid the second menu across the table. "So which one of you is staying?" I slid it right back. "You never liked us. You just liked us fighting over you." Me and my brother stood up at the exact same second. "Neither of us are staying." She grabbed the edge of the table. "You're seriously both leaving?" My brother chuckled. 18 years, he said, holding the door open for me. He turned to her. "You were never beating that." Outside, my brother hooked his arm around my neck. "The best men won. Corn dogs on me, little man."
Oh my gosh,
My
Bro's
brother and I
buff.
were
Did
bragging.
you see that?
I felt my front tooth break.
First up, ChatGPT gets.
Okay.
I was eating hot dogs at the fire station, enjoying the first calm day in months, when we got a call from a woman panicking. "There's a massive fire with children in danger. Please come now." I instantly dropped my food, and me and my crew drove over, ready to risk our lives. But when we pulled in, we saw 4 teenagers grilling a small barbecue in their yard. I thought we'd gotten pranked at first, but then a middle-aged woman frantically ran over. "That's them. They're gonna burn my house down and kill everyone. Spray them." I looked at the boys calmly flipping their hot dogs. "Ma'am, called the fire brigade for a barbecue. We can press charges for wasting our time." I started climbing back into my truck, but she physically grabbed my hand and pointed at the smoke rising from the grill. "Those kids are like 9. They can't be around fire." I sighed and slowly walked over. "How
You know
old
what?
are you guys?"
I'm on the
"We're
campsite
18.
right
Me and
now.
my dad go camping every
They're
month." I turned
9
around to
and
the
they're
Karen. "I can't stop
barbecuing?
legal-aged adults from having
I'm
a barbecue
kinda on the
there.
campsite
Plus their
right
hot dogs
now.
look perfectly
If anything
grilled."
gets
But
too
this
crazy,
time Karen
I'm on
didn't say a word. She sprinted to our
his
truck and
story
ripped the
side.
water
I don't know
hose
what
off the
his
side.
actual
She aimed it at the barbecue, and my stomach instantly dropped. 2 trained firefighters could barely control this hose. Me and my crew ran to stop her, but she was already smashing the trigger. But no water was coming out because the water valve hadn't been twisted. "Why isn't this stupid thing working?" She kept pressing. We were inches away from her when suddenly I got an idea. "No!" I quickly stopped my crew and whispered, whispered to let her continue. Everyone looked confused until I pointed at her looking straight into the nozzle. This fire department is too cheap to even get a working hose. I'm reporting this, she yelled while the kids laughed at her. That's when I snuck around the truck and twisted the valve right as she pressed the trigger. 20 gallons of water instantly shot at her face, hitting her at 50 miles per hour. The force sent her flying back as she hit the ground, and I instantly closed the valve, laughing my off so hard I dropped to the floor. She lay there, still delirious about what planet she was on, looking just as soaked as she was stupid. I slowly got back in the truck, still laughing, and that's when the teenagers ran over with a plate of hot dogs. Thanks for dealing with her. I was eating hot dogs at the fire station. I was counting crumpled bills for my overpriced New York rent when I noticed a rat on my kitchen floor, staring directly at me. I took off my shoe to kill it, but I froze because it didn't run. It scurried to the stove and started squeaking like crazy, like it was trying to tell me something. I raised my shoe, and it threw itself at the stove crack, desperate to reach something back there. I lowered my shoe because I've seen rats my whole life, but I'd never seen one act like this. What did it want? I crept to the stove to investigate, and my nostrils flared, gas hissing from the crack behind it, and the rat circled faster, squealing. Was it showing me the leak? The apartment was filling fast, and one spark, a light switch, anything, would blow the whole place. My hands shook as I grabbed the shutoff valve, but it was rusted solid and wouldn't move. The fumes burned down my throat until the room tilted, so I dialed 911. They yelled, "Get out now! A leak that size could blow in a second." Every breath made me dizzy as I stumbled for the door, but the rat was still there, throwing itself at the stove,
Bro,
and
just
I
save
couldn't
the
leave
rat.
it to die
Oh,
when
the
it
rat
just
saved-
saved my life. So I scooped it up and ran, but my elbow caught the light switch. I heard the spark before I felt the heat on my back. I clutched the rat to my chest and dove, and the explosion hurled me into the hallway as flames tore through everything I owned. Moments later, I woke up on the hallway floor, the rat somehow still pressed to my chest, both of us breathing. Firefighters rushed past me, shut off the gas, and yanked the burnt stove away from the wall. One of them gasped, and everyone stopped to look down. Behind the stove sat a huge block of cheese, melted and black around the edges from the explosion. The rat squirmed out of my hands and darted to the cheese, devouring the whole block with his hands pressed on it, and it finally clicked. The rat never saved my life. It just wanted the cheese stuck behind that stove, while the apartment I couldn't afford turned to ash. But then a firefighter picked it up, stupid rat, and chucked it out the window as it squealed. I was counting crumpled bills for my overpriced New York
No,
rent
the
when I noticed a
rat actually said it. But I've been recording for so long right now. I don't know.
I felt my front
It's
tooth break
not
the moment the mall
o'clock, though.
slammed my...
It's fine. My bedtime's literally like 12. Anyways, guys, that's it for today's video. Peace out.